All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, out here in the world of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that and more. Name is Darren Smith, host of the ship, which you can hear, well, could hear on ESPN Kansas City, but of course with the quarantine, I'm not able to do so. But you can tune in on Thursday night. I'll be in studio on Sports Radio 810 WHB, along with my guy, Mr. Sterling Holmes, who is host of Homestretch with Sterling Holmes, and we decided to do a little something different. Had some time on our hands, and we wanted to kind of, since we're not doing our shows on ESPN daily at the moment due to the virus that's out here in the country, and of course the quarantine and the lockdown, so to speak. We decided to bring it to social media. So we decided to combine the shows, and we have Homestretch with the ship. Something I think I kind of coined last week before all this even took place. But first and foremost, good evening to you, Sterling.
How you doing, Darren?
Doing okay, man. I'm glad that all is well. How have you been keeping yourself occupied and busy right now with everything that's going on?
Oh man, I've been reading a lot of books, drinking a ton of coffee as always, working on this little spare bedroom, as you can kind of see behind me. I got some drum heads up here, so I'm getting my music collection started over here at the house. And MLB The Show came out at a perfect time, so I'm getting some baseball gaming in right now.
Now, all that being said, again, so just for you all who don't know, we are located in the metro part of Kansas City, doing the show. Of course, here in Kansas City, there is a quote-unquote stay at home that goes into effect at 12:01 in just a couple of hours, actually. And with that here in Kansas City, according to our mayor, Quentin Lucas, major categories of essential business that's defined in that order that can stay open, there, so to speak, will include healthcare, including the doctors, dentists, nurses, hospitals, pharmacies, medical research facilities, and labs, food and drink production and distribution, which includes the grocery stores, markets, restaurants offering carry-out, and liquor stores, sanitation, which includes laundromats, dry cleaners, household and business cleaning services, and supply stores, transportation, which includes public transit, private transportation providers, so I believe that means Uber and Lyft drivers as well, railroads, airports, and gas stations, financial services, so your bank's still open, you can still go by there, cash your checks, and deposit money, manufacturing, distributions, supplies and materials, maintenance and construction of infrastructure in the households, child care, essential government operations, residential facilities, including hotels and motels, media and communication providers. So Sports Radio 810 will be open, although we are not currently allowing people to come by and pick up tickets or anything of that nature. Then, of course, the mailing, shipping, and delivery services are also open as well. Now, I know a lot of people would like to get their hairs done, get their nails did.
Oh my God, Darren, look at my hair already. Come on now.
Yeah.
You're telling
I
me
can
one more
Yeah,
month?
I'm telling you. Yeah, now it says that barber shops and hair salons are not essential. They should not be open, as well as gyms. So Sterling, you can't go out trying to shoot buckets or anything like
Dude,
that.
I got a little workout map at Target right before all this went down. I'm doing abs. I'm coming out with six-pack washboard abs and a mullet. Come on now. You know the game plan over here.
Look, man. So, of course, again, we want everyone obviously to take this very seriously. The virus that has spread has been labeled a global pandemic. In the state of Missouri, we already have, I believe, if I'm looking at it properly, we have 183 COVID-19 cases already. And that's what we do know for people who have gone and gotten tested. And the state of Kansas has hit 82. So, again, practice safe judgment, better judgment,
Wash
good judgment.
those hands.
Wash your hands and wash a few other spots as well. But with that, look, we wanted to have a show, and we plan on doing something daily throughout the week since we're not doing it on the radio. Again, programming out will be on live, Sports Radio 810 WHV 9:30 to 11 o'clock this Thursday. So we'll be coming on after a special replay of a basketball game this Thursday on Sports Radio HX. So Cheryl and I will be on. We'll probably be joined by Kenitra pulling us by phone since we all have to practice social distancing. So all that being said, let's jump right into sports. And Cheryl, I know you wanted to start this first topic off talking about PJ Tucker signing with the Carolina Panthers. Is this a good move or no?
I mean, I think it's definitely a good move. I think it's somewhat surprising in a way, seeing Carolina go completely away from Cam Newton. Again, this is just signaling, as we'll touch on later on in the show, with another move they make. But they are just completely saying, we are done with Cam Newton. We want nothing to do with him anymore. PJ Tucker, they brought in, who absolutely killed it in the XFL. Great job for him. PJ did an outstanding job. He was a Temple guy. Killed it out Temple. He knows Matt Rule. Good system to bring him into Carolina, knowing the system already. Good backup for Teddy Bridgewater. I think this is a very solid and prudent move. We'll get to it in a second, but Kyle Allen now getting shipped to Washington, to the Redskins, to be their backup. They obviously saw something in PJ to bring him in after just giving a deal to Kyle Allen. So obviously they saw enough with PJ to say, you know what? Let's give him a deal. Let's ship Kyle Allen out after we just gave him a 1-year extension. But let's see what's going to happen. But I think the Temple connection could pay off here.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I think you told me PJ
Walker.
Tucker, but it's PJ Walker. So yeah, got to change up the graphics on that one. I don't know why your text message said PJ Tucker, so you got to be thinking about. And every time I saw it, I kept thinking to myself, this is Houston Rockets.
He's the unofficial center for the Houston Rockets at 6'5".
Yeah, well, just for the record, your text message did say PJ Tucker, so
would auto change that. You know how much I talk about basketball and not the XFL.
Yes, but look, but the fact that they signed him, look, I mean, it's a good move. I mean, obviously, you got to figure out what you're going to do, where you're going to send Cam Newton, because right now he's still on the team. I know you've given him permission to look for a team that's willing to trade for him, but here's the thing, if you're the Carolina Panthers, what are you willing to give up for Cam Newton? I mean, obviously, you signed Teddy Bridgewater, so he's not going to be your starting quarterback next year. So are you giving him away for cheap? Are you just trying to, get him out of Carolina so Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have to worry about looking over the shoulder? What do you do if you are the Carolina Panthers? Now, if I'm Cam Newton, I guess if I'm Cam Newton, I'm looking for what team is best going to fit me and was best going to take control of my talent. Obviously, Norman Ryan Rivera probably could have been a good fit for him in D.C., but that's not to be the case now that they've gotten Kyle Allen. But also, now that I think about it, Cam in L.A. or even Cam Newton in New England would not be a bad fit. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about New England in just a little bit due to Brady Brian Hoyer being signed back there to the team. But if you're Cam Newton, you don't have really too many options. I mean, I guess you could look at Jacksonville, but but they look like they're going to be going through a rebuild. I don't know. I don't think Gardner Minshew is the answer down there. But if you're Cam, really, who is the perfect, or where is the perfect place for you to
It's
go?
not his decision anymore. He is getting cut. His trade value has never been lower, considering Carolina completely tanked it. Carolina, they've been trying to shop Cam Newton for a while, so the fact is that he hasn't been traded speaks volumes about what other teams value Cam Newton at this point in his career. Again, I think you and myself, we value Cam Newton way higher than the typical NFL GM, which is crazy considering how highly they seem to love Nick Foles. But if you look around the league, there's not really a lot of teams in the market for a starting quarterback at this point. You have New England, who, again, I both think they're not going to go into the start of the season with Stidham or Brian Hoyer as their starter. I think the Chargers are entrenched right now with Tyrod Taylor. They seem to give him a backing with Tyrod Taylor. And then you look around the league, I do think Jacksonville is set on Gardner Minshew. That's why they got rid of Nick Foles. If you're looking around the league, there's not really many starting spots left. If if Cam Newton does not go to New England, he's looking at a backup job. And Jameis Winston, let's be real here. Jameis Winston is fighting for the same backup job. There's not really a starting spot anywhere in the NFL.
Well, I'm not sure if you're Jameis Winston. One of the things you're talking about is you think that you're going to be playing in the Super Bowl next year, wherever team that you play for. So obviously that's not going to happen. I got to try to fix my audio. My one of my high school coaches telling me that my sound is a little muffled, so I got to fix that on this end. But all that being said, Sterling, for Cam Newton, look, at the end of the day, wherever he goes, now the question is if he goes somewhere, if it's traded or if he's cut and gets signed, is he still a starting quarterback, or is he someone that you think, like Jameis, could be coming off the bench?
I'm not going to lie. If I'm a NFL GM, I think Cam Newton and both Jameis Winston, I think, should be starting somewhere in the NFL. Teams, though, looks like the Bears want to try out Trubisky and the Nick Foles combination out there. Is Cam Newton and Jameis Winston probably a step above both those guys? I think so. Do I think they're better than Gardner Minshew? Yes, but any rebuild, you give the reins to this young guy. Again, the Chargers are seemingly in love right now with Tyrod Taylor, or since they missed out on the Brady sweepstakes, they gave Tyrod Taylor a backing unless they draft a quarterback in this upcoming NFL draft. The Raiders seem to like Derek Carr. They brought in Marcus Mariota to challenge him. You got Drew Lock in Denver. Just looking around the league outside of New England, I don't know where you're going to find a spot for Jameis and Cam Newton to get a starting opportunity, which is crazy to think. If both healthy, they're going to be bench guys. They're going to be backups.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at all the teams. I'm looking at all the teams across both conferences in the NFL. And you're right. I mean, most of the teams pretty much have their starters solidified. Obviously, you look at just in the conference that Cam's in. Obviously, you can't go to Tampa, can't go to Atlanta, can't go to New Orleans. When you look at the NFC West, you got Russell Westbrook, you got Jared Goff, you got Kyler Murray, you got Garoppolo in San Francisco. Even in the NFC North, you got good guys. Yeah, I could have seen him in Chicago. You still got Matt Stafford in Detroit. You know you're not doing anything over in Minnesota or Green Bay. And then Washington would have been a good fit. You got the second year player up in New York. Cowboys got their quarterback. Yeah, so you're right. When I look at it, there's not too many options. Obviously, the Colts, they got their quarterback. The Tennessee Titans, Houston Texans. Again, there's Jacksonville. Maybe an outside shot, like you said, with the Chargers, if they believe enough in Tyrod Taylor. Or, like you said, they draft someone, you can get some. But right now, you can get these players for cheap.
Yeah.
That's the one good thing that you can do. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit. Kansas City, the Chiefs also got someone from the XFL as well, who will be third string or practice squad player for the team. Look, Miami, they will have an opening, but they're probably, if they get a chance, they're going to try to draft Tua. I don't know, maybe the Jets, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember who the quarterback is.
Darnold. So they're stuck with him. There's a lot of young quarterbacks, unproven guys in the NFL right now, and if you're a rebuilding team, you're not just going to throw a lot of money at Cam Newton. It makes more sense for Jameis, and Jameis Winston's still a younger guy, and if you think he can rein in 30 interceptions, maybe you give that guy another chance, but he kind of shot himself in the foot.
Yeah, if anyone, I could see Jameis down in Jacksonville. But yeah, it's just funny. It's really not that many options. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well, about who are some of the best NFL free agents that are left out here right now. Because when you stop and look at it, there's just not too many openings right now. When you look at the list, and it's funny because we talked, I think it was with J.C. Pearson a couple of weeks ago or last week. We talked about top 10 quarterbacks, and it's funny. We try to name 10 quarterbacks that were better, or that you thought were better than Dak Prescott in Dallas. But then when you look at the full roster of 32 teams, it's hard to figure out where a starting quarterback in Jameis Winston and Cam Newton will actually go, or can actually end up and land somewhere to lead a franchise. And it's one of the few times I don't have an answer.
Come on, Darren. You always have answers.
Yeah, but but when you sit at it and look at it logistically, there's not too many options. We're not going to go to Cincinnati. Obviously, you got Joe Burrow up there, who's going to be the number one draft pick.
Well, another guy you just right, Andy Dalton. What's going to happen to Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton, I think, would be a fantastic backup, and maybe potentially you could say add some starting value. But again, the league right now is littered with these average quarterbacks. What guys like Josh Briscoe and myself call bucket quarterbacks. You can pick them out of a bucket, and they're not going to win you games, won't really lose you games. They're just guys. The league right now is littered with just guys, and the league is trying to go young with potential superstars.
All right, so let's see. Now, the next topic that we have on tap is Kyle Allen to Washington for a fifth round draft pick. So, what were your thoughts when they made that move, getting him out of Carolina to Washington? Obviously, Ron Rivera knows a lot about him because he was a head coach before he was fired midway through the season. But your thoughts on this? And really, what's it mean for Dwayne Haskins? Because if you're Dwayne Haskins, the owner buys into you, but at the end of the day, the owner has to bless this move to bring Kyle Allen in.
I think it's more of a insurance policy. Kyle Allen was, I should say, started off exceptional when he filled in for Cam Newton. He started off, what was it, 6-0. And then the disaster started, the interceptions. You couldn't keep that back. He became Jameis Winston without the touchdowns. So, to be honest with you, I think Kyle Allen is probably a below average backup, is what he would project out to in my mind. So a fifth round draft pick for him, it doesn't make a lot of sense. If you're Carolina, you have to be ecstatic. You just gave this guy a decent contract. You get the guy you want from the XFL and PJ Walker. So you get a fifth round draft pick for a guy who may have been your third stringer if you wanted PJ Walker that bad. Carolina's got to be ecstatic right now. But Washington, I guess you get a backup who you think is solid, but I just don't see him projecting out to be that kind of guy.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, Carolina, they still got four quarterbacks on their roster, so obviously you're still waiting. Before they had this trade, they had five of them with the acquisition of Walker out of the XFL. Look, I don't. It's not going to move the needle. I guess you can say you have a security blanket in Kyle Allen is that the offense that Ron Rivera is going to install, you have a player that played underneath you that knows the offense. So if for some reason when we are able to get back to play, practice, and things like that, if Dwayne Haskins cannot grasp this offense, then you have a safety net with Kyle Allen there. Now, I don't think that that's going to mean anything at the end of the day. I think it's still a two-team race between the Cowboys and the Eagles in the division. But overall, it's not a bad pickup for the Redskins.
The main thing this signals for me is they don't think Alex Smith will be back this year from the injuries. The fact that they went in with a fifth-round draft pick for a backup signals to me that Alex Smith will not be ready, at least for the start of the season, because of those leg injuries.
What I'm thinking is that Alex must still have some guaranteed money on that contract that he has with them. Otherwise, I think they would have gotten rid of him.
It's a tough situation to be in too. It's not fun for Washington. It's not fun for Alex Smith, but that's the life of the NFL. Injuries are a part of it. Gruesome injuries are a part of it. And from all accounts, from what we've seen, it seems like Alex Smith is progressing, better than some thought. And he does say he wants to play again. So if that's the case, maybe he comes back.
Oh, he definitely wants to play. He's got a nice sized paycheck coming from the Redskins. Whether he plays or spends another year, recovering. And which again, the fact that he had a gruesome, he had a Joe Namath, Joe Theismann type injury. So I saw a highlight of Lawrence Taylor when he did that, and I've never been the same as it relates to. It's hard for me to watch those type of hits. And when I heard about Alex Smith's injury, I never wanted to see a footage of it because I already knew what it was going to harken me back to. But Alex Smith, I think his better days have seen him. Even if he was to recover 100%, I still don't think he's going to be the player that he was. I think that injury is always going to be in the back of his mind, and he was never one to take big hits when he was here in Kansas City because he always got rid of the ball quick enough. But if Haskins somehow grasps and can, can become the leader of this team that they hope for him to be, I can see Alex Smith probably just going off into the sweet good night and never play
I
again.
mean, he's always loved in Kansas City. Alex Smith will always be loved in Kansas City.
By you.
He helped me
So,
for Patrick Mahomes. If you don't like Alex Smith for
whoa,
what he
hey,
did,
man,
then you are
hey,
crazy.
I'm crazy, man.
Alex Smith not only stabilized a QB position that was so dynamic for so, oh, I should say undynamic for so long. Alex Smith came in and immediately brought some sort of structure. Not only that, Alex Smith did a great job teaching Patrick Mahomes, knowing full well Patrick was about to take his job. And Alex Smith said, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to be the bigger man. I'm going to help Patrick, help this organization. And he was rewarded with a decent sized contract and a trade to Washington. Look at guys like Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco said he was not going to help out Drew Lock. Joe Flacco said he was only focused on himself. You know how many quarterbacks would do that? So many. Alex Smith did way more than he was supposed to do. Helped out Patrick when he knew he was going to get his job taken by him. We should love Alex Smith in Kansas City.
Okay, first things first. Patrick was never taking Alex's job. That on draft night, Andy Reid said that Patrick was coming in. He was going to be a project. He was coming in on the bench. That's the reason why they picked him because they wasn't in a hurry to put him out there on the field. So
Because you had
he was never.
stability in Alex
I'm
Smith.
sorry.
Because you had stability with Alex Smith.
Well, hold on. But you just said that he was worried about this guy. He already knew that his job was only for 1 year longer when they drafted him. That was already an understanding. So it wasn't a matter of I got to fight this guy off. No, it's you are not going to be Joe Flacco. You're going to groom this guy regardless because you know this is your last year. So you want to make the best of it. You want to try to get this team as far as possible as you can so you can have that on your resume. So it wasn't a matter of him trying to, hold off, the young line. It was never going to happen. This was always Patrick's team after his rookie
Oh,
season.
yeah, we know that. But at the same time, it's because Alex Smith helped him. Alex Smith helped more than most quarterbacks in the NFL would do. Again, look at Joe Flacco. Look at guys like Eli Manning. Did they help out Daniel Jones? Did they help out Drew Lock? No, they said they were trying to keep them off, even though they knew the reason why those guys were drafted were to take their jobs.
If Alex Smith was that guy, if Alex Smith had done some winning and done more, and done more than just being a conservative type of quarterback, if he threw more than 7 yards down the field, they would have never had a need to draft a Patrick Mahomes.
Darren, only four guys in the NFL can do that. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, come on, it's a small list. Alex Smith was fantastic for his job. He stabilized the quarterback position when we needed it most in Kansas City. He did everything that was asked of him and more. Alex Smith, his last year here was outstanding. People forget it. He was not just a check down guy that last year in Kansas City. He was not. You can say all you want about
No, well, hold on. The reason why was because he had nothing left to lose because he knew his job was
because Andy
gone.
Reid was helping putting Patrick Mahomes plays, and Alex. They said, you know what, Alex,
And
run the Patrick
here,
plays.
look, here's the thing. You saw when you saw his first three seasons here when Alex had no regards for whether or not somebody was going to take his position. He played conservative. Obviously, when they drafted Patrick, yes, he knew it was his last year, so he went out guns a blazing. Now, a lot of times when I went out and covered the game, we'd ask ourselves, but Dan, why wouldn't you do this the first three? If you'd have done what you were doing this year, the first three seasons, the first four seasons, we wouldn't be, Patrick Mahomes would have been an afterthought. Somebody else would have got him because we would have trusted in you enough to leave you as the leader of the team.
I don't think so. I think you know what you have with Alex Smith. I think you knew what his potential and what his ceiling was. I think it was always going to be drafted quarterback, but the stability.
Look, I was willing to help pack the man's bags. Okay, so look, you're not
I
gonna get
understand,
me there.
Darren. You've been through the Tyler Palco era. You've been to the Matt Castle era. You've been through the Brady Quinn era. I don't get all this hate on Alex Smith, a guy that actually brought some sort of stability and Pro Bowl play. Remember that? He was a Pro Bowler to the quarterback position in Kansas City.
I mean, you have to look at who the quarterbacks were in the conference at that time. But all that being said, we'll agree to disagree on that. Third topic now, of course, with this whole coronavirus and stuff, you got Bill Self live tweeting the ESPN 2008 championship game. Now, when that game was going on, Sterling, what were you doing when the game aired on television?
Just following Bill Self's tweets. To be honest, I didn't know at first they were airing the game again. Was it on CBS? I want to say maybe an ESPN.
But so yeah,
And
CBS.
either way, Bill Self. I saw his tweets. I was like, "What is he doing?" And then I went and I saw it literally live tweeting the '08 championship game. It was awesome. I think more coaches should do this during this quarantine because it gives you something to look forward to. You get to see what the coaches' decisions were and see if they would make those same decisions again. And you get to see it live. I mean, not every coach is going to be as open as Bill Self. Not every coach is going to be as funny as Bill Self. This is coming from the Mizzou guy over here. But Bill Self was very open about it, was joking around. I hope more coaches do this when these previous games are on, or players for that matter, because I think it's very fun.
You know, I would like this. It this whole this whole time that we're locked down or in quarantine or just trying to practice social distancing, it is good because you get a chance to see players at their realest and kind of like behind the scenes, so to speak, because you don't get a chance to really get a chance to watch them in action or to see the thing. One of the things that I caught myself doing, I kept questioning my head like, why is Patrick Mahomes or why is Travis Kelsey noodling or whatever on his cell phone trying to draw well? I mean, and this is something that players are doing. And look, I don't know. Now I'm starting to feel like I'm that guy that's going to be telling people to get off my lawn and stuff like that when I see all this stuff. Because I'm thinking it's corny, but I know it's fun and I know it's something because look, if you stick in that, if you stay in the house long enough, you're going to go crazy. And so you have to do things, which is kind of why we're doing this, kind of break the monotony of things. But look, I didn't even know Bill Self was on Twitter until you told me that earlier today because somebody else had mentioned that Bill Self had tweeted something earlier this year. I think it was Nate Bukaty was telling me that Bill Self has sent out a tweet wanting more students to attend the games and all that. I'm looking on Twitter, I'm like, well, where's Bill Self at? I'm like, I don't see a Bill Self account. And then when I look at it, I'm making sure it's the right one. So the fact that he was actually doing this is pretty interesting because the thing is, like you said, you want to know what's going through their mind while they're watching themselves, during the national championship game, which is pretty good because, Coach, what were you thinking at that time? When you called a timeout or when the play was going or whatever like that, and to see him to be able to live tweet, his thoughts and what was going on during the game was pretty cool. Like you said, I do think it would be good if more people do stuff like that. I mean, I know for me personally, it's hard for me to try to, because I'm trying to manage Facebook and then trying to get Twitter and I guess Instagram. So I don't, I haven't quite perfected the whole social media stuff. I mean, I got the video stuff down pat, but it's as it relates to trying to communicate and get my quick thoughts out there, things like that. I still got a little time. Still got a little work to do on that. But I think during this break would be nice. Look, you know what I would like to see? I would like to see Deontay Wilder because right now I think earlier today on ESPN they replayed the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight. I would have loved to see both of their thoughts on the fight on Twitter tonight. That would have been something good and interesting to see. Them live tweeting throughout the duration of the replay of the fight.
Yeah, I'm all for this. All for the replay, all for the live tweeting during the replay, all for the recaps from the actual players, coaches, fighters themselves. I just think it gives some sort of newness to something we've already seen and witnessed before.
You know what? I would actually like to. It's funny you said. I would actually like to see, more coaches do it just regularly. Obviously not through through their games, but if they went out and let's just say we got got games back going again, and let's just say for the sake of discussion the March Madness was going on, I would love to see Coach Self just live tweeting games that are being played on Thursday nights when he's getting ready to play, or practice on Saturday or Friday, or vice versa, something like that. Like if he's or if his team plays on Friday night, then him live tweeting stuff on Saturday during other games. I think that would just be interesting. That would draw a lot of attention and would actually be pretty fascinating to say the least.
It would be until you potentially had to play that team and the coach looks back and see if there's any wood for the
Oh
fire,
man, I wish I would have done that.
gasoline on the fire in that case.
So again, I do want to remind everyone that to practice obviously good hygiene during this COVID-19. We at the radio station, we do want everyone to stay safe. Again, the station is still open, open for business, but we are practicing social distancing as well out there. So on the ESPN side, you won't hear a lot of, you'll hear regular programming, national programming on there. We'll be back on the air after this pandemic is subsided and they give us the okay to come back and, congregate amongst us. But until then, again, we'll continue bringing our content, Sterling and I, right here via Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube. You can follow us. For me, at Darren Smith WHB, and for Sterling, it's at Homestretch KC. But let's move on to the next topic, Sterling. Brian Hoyer re-signs with New England. Now, who starts to open the season? Will it be Brian Hoyer or Jarrett Stidham?
I think neither.
Oh,
I think
okay.
if you tell me right now New England goes into a season with either Brian Hoyer or Jarrett Stidham as their starting quarterback, I would think it'd be asinine. I think there's no way, especially with guys like Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton. Even though for some reason I feel like Andy Dalton seems like the safest bet for New England because he seems less turnover prone. I just can't see Brian Hoyer being that starting option. Brian Hoyer, fine backup. Jarrett Stidham, I don't really think you know what you have, but I don't think he's the answer by any means. I do think New England thinks outside the box or goes outside the box and brings in a slightly bigger name at least quarterback.
I'm with you on that. If I had to pick between these two, I guess you could. Well, I guess Jarrett Stidham because you kind of got them to do that. But Brian Hoyer obviously brings a little bit more credibility. He has played. He has started in the league. Obviously, he was Brady's preferred backup because obviously Brady wasn't worried about you turning the team over to him. If I'm New England, like you said, I do think they'll probably go the route of Andy Dalton. But again, what do you have to give up? Because right now there's not a lot of movement going on in the NFL. With this off season, with the free agent period right now. Now, I don't know if it's just going to be an issue where they wait out and see. If they still do well, they are doing the NFL draft, but it's a matter of how they go about doing it. So I don't know if they'll wait to see what Cincinnati does in the draft, and of course if they go Joe Burrow, then obviously Andy Dalton becomes expendable. But what are you wanting to give up, or what is Cincinnati willing to take if someone presents a trade offer out there for Andy Dalton? Now, obviously.
No, you take about anything for Andy Dalton at this point. If someone offers you a seventh rounder, you're giving that up, I think. Because at this point, he's just an extremely high-priced backup because Joe Burrow's your guy. And back in the day, when guys like Aaron Rodgers even were drafted, you had the heirs first, you had the Brett Favre's teach them. But now it seems like guys are drafted, they expect you to start your first year, and they expect you to succeed your first year. Look at Kyler Murray. There's a lot of guys that now are getting thrown into the fire their first season, and they're expected to perform.
You know what? My feeling on that is, if I am, well, this is what I've been thinking with some of the moves because they've lost a lot of players in free agency. I know they've signed a few. They just cut their kicker, Steven Gostkowski, as well. I think he's one of 4 players to play in at least 6 Super Bowls. So, congratulations to him. But one of the things that it's looking like to me this could be a rebuilding year for the Patriots, where I can literally see them maybe tanking, so to speak, and going after the kid from Clemson next year.
There's no way Bill Belichick. You actually see Belichick tanking for Trevor Lawrence. I don't think tanking's even in Bill Belichick's mind.
I don't. Well, look, I don't say it's in its vocabulary, but stop and think about it. What better way to prove that it's your system and not Tom Brady than look? Yeah, you can have a down season, and look, maybe you having a down season doesn't mean you're taking, but you find yourself in a situation where look, Miami is to me is going to be the most improved team with all the off-season moves that they've done thus far, and of course, if they can acquire two is a health from the doctors have said that he's going to be good to go, when the football season starts. But if I'm New England and you want to figure out who was the main catalyst of this six Super Bowl win run, what better way to do it than to have someone like Trevor Lawrence come in and you win with him, and then you show that it was Belichick's system and that versus Tom Brady and his
Well,
greatness.
the best way to do that, the best way to prove that is don't even worry about Trevor Lawrence. Just at least make
Yeah.
the playoffs with someone like Clear, Jarrett Stidham, Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston. If you're Bill Belichick, you got to win. You can't have a down season. Did Tom Brady ever have a tanking season in New England? No.
Well, Tom Brady was
No,
great
but I
in
mean,
his first year.
Belichick's proven he can win outside of Tom Brady with Matt Castle.
Well, again, I'm only saying taking if he doesn't get a big name quarterback such as Winston, Carson, not Winston, Andy Dalton, or even Cam Newton. Now,
Defense is too good. The defense is too good. It was historic last
well,
year. That defense, if you can put up 21 points, if you can put up 18 points, you're probably
I think the
you're
defense.
winning 9 games, 10 games.
Yeah, but the defense might be on the field a little bit more this season due to your quarterback. If you don't have a great starting quarterback, your defense can see the field a little bit more often, which means that they won't be as great as they were before. But look, at the end of the day, in Belichick I trust, and again we're going to get to Belichick and Tom Brady. I don't want to just give everything away in this particular segment, but one of we keep talking about NFL free agents. Let's move to the next topic. Who are the best NFL free agents right now that are still available? Because there are some that is kind of shocking to say the least that they're still out there on the market, and more importantly, they have not gotten the offers that they expect to get. So who in your name, or who in your opinion, maybe top three, top five of NFL free agents that are still available?
One I know we'll agree on is Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney,
Yeah.
I think he wanted to set the market. I think Jadeveon Clowney expected to set the market, and it just hasn't been there. I don't know what he's looking at now. I still think he's going to sign a very large contract. There has to be a market out for Jadeveon Clowney, but I just think it's a little slow moving. I don't know if it's because, honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the injury history. I don't know if because of the quote unquote counting numbers aren't there. If you know about Jadeveon Clowney, if you know about analytics, if you get into it, he's been a very effective football player. He may not have the sack numbers that other edge guys get, but you know the pressures he brings. You know that he can set the edge as good as, if not better than some of the other guys who go for this test. I mean, look at Vic Beasley. He had 16 sacks that one season in 2016. He signs a relatively large deal with Tennessee based on those sack numbers, and that's about it. Jadeveon Clowney's the whole package.
Here's the thing. The problem with Jadeveon Clowney is that it's almost though he never lived up to the hype. I remember watching the bowl game, I believe it was, where he blasted the guy, came off the line, blasted the guy's helmet, came off and picked up the ball and almost scored a touchdown. And it was like, whoa, this guy's good. Now, and if you know, I generally like to follow the players while they're in high school. So he was the top defensive player coming out of high school when he signed with South Carolina, staying in state. That being said, though, when you paired him up with J.J. Watt, and again, a lot of it had to do with J.J. Watt staying healthy. He couldn't stay healthy. To me, it was a situation where when you look at that and you look when he was there together, they should have been so dominant that Houston should have been much better as a team, especially defensively, than what they were. I think one year they may have had the top ranked defense. I think it was not this past season, but the season before they were top defense, but they couldn't really do anything. Uh, I don't think he's lived up to the hype
Oh,
from
I mean, he's not lived up to the. His hype was unreal though coming out of college. It was almost going to be crazy if he could even possibly live to that hype out of college.
well, yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, but if you would have been like a Mario Williams, where all the expectation was there for you as a defense player, the number one draft pick, yeah, I'd understand if he went. But he went to a team that already had a future Hall of Famer and J.J. Watt on it, so you didn't have to come in and be the man. You could just be, so you got J.J. on one side, you on the other side. You come in like that. I mean, and then I think, oh gosh, I can't think who the linebacker was that suffered all those concussions that was there as well. So I mean,
Brian
they had
Cushing,
it.
maybe was
Huh?
it Brian Cushing?
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, they had a three-headed monster, and then I mean, and they had a pretty decent defensive backfield, more or less. And I think the one year that Tyron Matthew was there. And then of course you had Romeo Crennel that was doing the play calling down there. So defensively, you had everything that you wanted. And again, he never. I think the year he made the Pro Bowl, he had 6 sacks. The year that he made the Pro Bowl. So it's like, he wants to, what, $20 million? Like you said, he wants to set the market. I don't see, because if he didn't get signed the first week of NFL free agency, your value is only going to go down. It's not going to go back up. So I can't see him getting a big money contract. This offseason, if he hadn't already gotten it now, because right now there's not too many takers for him.
And there's still some decent amount of guys on the free agent market. I think Everson Griffin is a wild card name. Everson Griffin stepped away from football. I think it was 2018 for mental health issues. 2019 last year came back, had a very productive last year. But Everson Griffin was an absolute monster for a while in the NFL for the Minnesota Vikings. Then he had to step away because of his mental health. Glad he got some help, came back, was productive. And I don't think he's been a guy that people have been talking about enough. But I think if you want to take a low risk but potentially extremely high reward, I think Everson Griffin is probably your guy.
Here's another thing, though. Do you want to get paid or do you want to win? Now, you can do both if you go to the right place. But obviously, again, not too many teams are trying to pay Davion the kind of money that he wants. I mean, he would be. I mean, obviously, he would be great and playing for Bill Belichick, but he's not going to come out that kind of money because New England don't pay that kind of money. I don't know whether or not he would do a 1 year deal and maybe go to Tampa Bay. I mean, you got enough defensive players that they sign, and they still have about. I think after signing Brady, I think they still have about $30 million left in their salary cap, I believe. They had 55 before Brady signed for 25, well, for 50 million, 25 this upcoming year. So, I mean, they still have moves and they still have places that they could spot, and maybe Clowney will fit in well down there. But I just don't see too many. I don't see too many places where he. I mean, he can obviously go back to Seattle, and he did have a good time there, but again, for the price that he wants, again, he's going to have to come down, and if he doesn't, I guess nobody's going to sign him. But yeah, but 20 million is just too high a price for really. I don't want to say he's an unknown commodity, but you don't know what you're going to get because he does have an injury history as well.
So I think another guy that I wish the Chiefs would look at. I know they only have, according to the latest evaluation, I think it's 555,000 in cap space right now. Again, this is without them looking at Sammy Watkins. This is without any of the LDT. This is just 555 is what it is right now before the expected moves. But Marcus Golden, the former Mizzou Tiger, I think he had a extremely productive year last year for the lowly New York Giants. He had 10 sacks. Again, maybe the opposite of Jadeveon Clowney as far as getting the flashy, splashy numbers, but Marcus Golden proven that he could wrap up, proven that he could get to the I thought he was going to have a bigger market. I guess I'm slightly surprised. I mean, I keep going back to it, but the guy to the Titans side who hasn't been good since 2016 just got a decent deal. And guys like Marcus Golden, who, I mean, even Emmanuel Ogbah signed for 2 years, 15 million down in Miami. I thought Marcus Golden would at least get that, but we haven't seen any sort of market materialize for Marcus Golden yet. So maybe for Kansas City, when you do get some of those finances in order, if you don't trust Braylon Speaks, maybe you do bring in Marcus Gold to fill in for that Emmanuel Ogbah type of role.
I'm still wondering what Kansas City's going to do as it relates to. Oh my gosh, the guy that came from Terrell Suggs. I'm wondering what they're going to do with him. I know he's 37, he'll be 38, I think, if and when the season begins. Again, Marcus Golden, yeah, he would be a good fit. He is under 30 right now, so that's obviously pretty good. I mean, but if you're the Chiefs, I mean, looking at some of the signings, and let me see if I can pull up here some of the signings that the Chiefs have done recently. I mean, obviously, yeah, they signed the backup quarterback. Um, I mean, they tagged Chris Jones. Maybe they look to see whether or not they can, do something on the trade market with him. They added another offensive lineman, Mike Remmers. They agreed to a 1-year term with him a few days ago. I mean, I guess, like you said, according to Adam Thaisher, maybe you're focusing on depth versus any big names that you can bring in.
I
So,
don't know if you have
and then,
the
like you
I don't know
said,
if you have the money though to get
well,
get
and that's the
I
other
mean,
thing too, because when you look at it, I mean, we keep talking about Patrick Mahomes and getting that $200 million deal. I mean, I don't see how you can even have that conversation with him right now, with all that. I mean, you have no money. I mean, you had to kind of renegotiate, or you had to do something with Frank Clark's signing bonus just to get you underneath the cap space in time for the new season to start. So
well, Clay Matthews is now a free agent. The Rams cut Clay Matthews to save some money. Clay Matthews is 34. He can play inside linebacker. He can play outside linebacker. He had 8 sacks last year. You know you need linebacking help. And maybe this name is way too big to be in Kansas City. Maybe Clay Matthews is a name that he'll get paid because of. When you think of Clay Matthews, you think of an absolute stud, right? He's older.
look, I got no problem. Look, I thought Clay was going to help the Rams get back to the playoffs last year. I know he did. I know he played well against his team, the Green Bay Packers, and of course he ended up getting a broken jaw. I think he was out for 3 games last year. But it's funny you talked about Clay. Now Clay's 34 years old. Now when I bring this name up, I'm gonna sit back and just laugh at the pushback that you give me. And what about Indomitian Sue? Now, he's a year younger. Now you know what I'm saying. I mean, people thought when he was in Miami or whatever, they thought he was kind of washed up, whatever. But then he went to the Los Angeles Rams and played next to Aaron Donald. They got to a Super Bowl. I mean, he helped lead them to a Super Bowl.
Solid, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, he
huh?
was solid.
Okay, so would that be a good pickup for Kansas City?
I it's tough. I think he also kind of falls into would he be a good pickup? I would say 1,000%, especially if you trade Chris Jones and Dominican Sue should be the first name you call. I honestly though I feel like
Got Terry Poles back out there too.
I
You
just
can
feel
bring him
like
back home.
the name in Dominican Sue, the fact he's been effective, if not spectacular, but effective over the past few seasons. I would assume he still has a decent market, especially on the interior. He can still get to the quarterback, which is impressive for an interior lineman. I feel like he'd be out of Kansas City's price range. The only thing is, if you do trade Chris Jones, and Ndamukong Suh should be one of the first names you call in free agency.
Now I'm gonna hit you with something right now. Now I think he's going, and I do believe he's going to be healthy. But what if you added Eric Reed to the Kansas City Chiefs?
I mean, he'd be your what? Your third safety, I guess. Maybe your fourth. You would have to cut. You'd probably have to cut Dan Sorensen to bring in Eric Reed. I think he was fine. He's been. I don't think he's a spectacular player, but he's a fine player. He's better than oh my gosh, Murray. The guy
Yeah,
just getting
but
named for. And then
uh, you know,
Clinton Dix, by the way, got 1 year, $4 million. Which, if that was the case, Kansas City, you should take a look at Clinton Dix. But
usually it's not just for the name, man. I just have a good time calling out Quentin Dixon name out. But here's the thing: when you said they'd have to cut Dirty Dan, now I'm against the Eric Reed signing because Dirty Dan made that game saving tackle, man, and I can't.
what's funny is
He's
Dan's so
got a job for
good
life.
games. He also had the interception to seal it against the Chargers to pretty much. Wait, was that the one of the last passes? They've got the last pass, correct? The Mexico City game against the Chargers.
Yeah,
Phil Rivers threw that to, and now it's Dirty Dan. Dirty Dan.
yeah,
Entire season coming up with big plays.
yeah. I was there for that. Now Logan Ryan. I mean, that with the Tennessee Titans. Maybe put somebody on the other side with your various Ward because I don't know how many defensive backs. I don't know how many corners we have left. I know Kendall Fuller signed back with them. I think we lost
Bashad Breeland.
Rashad Breeland as well. So I mean, we could be looking at a corner out there as well. And then the push always, it always fails. There's always Jameis Winston. We can have him as a scout team quarterback. So
I don't know. The one guy that I still feel like gets overhyped is Robbie Anderson of the Jets. I feel like everyone always talks about this guy as if he's a bona fide number one. This guy's had some very solid games. I will grant you that. But people act like Robbie Anderson is a bona fide number one. But I'm like, to be honest, I'm going to have Sammy Watkins over Robbie Anderson. There's a good amount of wide receivers like Robert Wood.
well, every team has to have at least a number one wide receiver. They might not be a Julio Jones, even a Tyreek Hill, but every team has a number one receiver, even if we don't classify them as such.
Yeah, it's just there's so many good deep threats. Deep threat receivers are so finicky unless you literally are Tyreek Hill who can do so much more than just be a deep threat. I mean, especially with this deep draft class coming up, that's why I don't think there's been much of a market for Demarcus Robinson. That's why I think he may come back to Kansas City because the market's just not there right now.
Yeah, especially when you look at, like you said, Alabama has what, three wide receivers that's going to probably go first
And
round
LSU
in this
has
draft.
three too. I mean,
Huh?
LSU has a couple, and
Yeah, yeah. Oklahoma. So I mean, this is a full again. So if you're Kansas City, do you even trade out the first round? I mean, you could get you another speedy or a good wide receiver, and just continue to bless Patrick with an abundance of riches. Sterling, last topic of the evening for us. We talked about earlier, Brady or Belichick. Who is it more important to have success? And I would hasten to add immediate success.
for me, gotta be Tom Brady. Because people, especially my age, forget how good Tom Brady really was. I think we think of him as this outstanding quarterback, this winner, but he always gets labeled the system quarterback, the greatest system quarterback of all time. Because when I was growing up, you had Aaron Rodgers was the new thing, and Aaron Rodgers had more mobility. He seemingly had the better arm strength, seemingly the throws that Patrick Mahomes makes now. But Tom Brady was still winning, but was that because of Tom Brady or because of the system? So I think that if Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay, if he wins in Tampa, there'll be no denying. Because, like I said, with Belichick, they know he can win with other quarterbacks. He's won with Matt Castle. You know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, they won 11-5, but they didn't win the division. They get to the
but still,
playoffs.
Belichick has won outside of Tom Brady. Tom Brady has not won yet because he's always been in New England outside of Bill Belichick. So now I think if Brady proves how good he is outside of the system, I think it would put all those haters to rest and then the GOAT. I still think Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time, but I think there'd be no denying it at this point.
I'm still going to go with Joe Montana on that goat just because when it mattered most, he never lost. But Brady is great. don't I don't that's still but dude. Now growing up, I saw all the Joe Montana versus Jim Kelly versus a guy in John Elway, Dan Marino. I saw all those round robin quarterback duels throughout the 80s and 90s, and then of course moving on to Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, and then of course Brett Favre in there, and Drew Brees coming on the tail and that stuff. So I see these quarterback matchups, quarterback battles, but look, it becomes a situation of what came first, the chicken or the egg. Now, Belichick had success before he got to New England, but that was by way of being a defensive coordinator in New York. Now, he had, I think, maybe 1 year in the playoffs as a Cleveland Browns head coach, and I think that was the year he had Nick Saban as well as his defensive coordinator. And they went to the playoffs, and then Nick Saban ended up going to Michigan State before he came to the NFL and went back to Alabama. All that being said, though, look, man, they work hand in hand together because Belichick, whether he controls the defense or calls the defense, or he can call offensive plays. He says that the plays get in there. Brady still has to execute. So to me, if Belichick doesn't call the right plays or whatever, and Brady doesn't execute said plays, then we're not having these discussions. Now, again, had they gone 19-0, and it cost me a ton of money when they didn't, but obviously it's more important for Brady to have success because he's on a 2-year contract, so his shelf life is much limited than Bill Belichick. So, while it's more important to me that if I'm Tom Brady that I win, I think he's in a good situation where he can win and maybe get to a Super Bowl this year or next year. Obviously, Brady didn't hold the ball too long, so line protection is important down there, but it's not the end all be all. Now, Jameis Winston, he held onto the ball a lot, which got him hit, fumble, and forcing interception. Brady doesn't make those type of mistakes, and he doesn't keep the ball in his hand because he doesn't like to get hit, and he's pretty accurate with his throws. He has two he has two Pro Bowl receivers. They might even add Antonio Brown. I don't know, but they might add Antonio Brown.
We differ there. You and me differ there.
No, we differ, but look, man, if Brady has his way, if he gets him down there, again, you're in a win-now situation. If he feels that Antonio Brown can help him win and help this team get to the Super Bowl, they will do it. I mean, because they put all the chips in for Tom Brady right now these next 2 years. And what better way than to be able to host the Super Bowl, in your own stadium with Tom Brady as a quarterback. And now, as much as I think Kansas City, will make it back to the Super Bowl, and I expect to be there, cover all the blah 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 blah. What if the Patriots somehow had a good season and Tampa Bay made it, and then both teams face each other? Now you see the master against the pupil, and you never know. I mean, this is of course the conversation we'll have.
It's not going to happen, but it'd be amazing.
No, it's definitely not going to happen. But look, but at the end of the day, I do believe that when it's all said and done, it is more important for Brady to win. But I think at the end of the day, I think Belichick is going to probably end up, being more successful in the long run, just because he has a longer time to be there. But, gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show. We got about 45 seconds left. Anything you want to update your fans, viewers, and listeners?
That was fun. I've been tweeting a lot more. If you want to get in some of your worst ever sports takes, I had an outstanding one. Check my Twitter, HomestretchKC. Yeah, it was a bad sports take.
Well, look, again, we might not, I don't know about tomorrow night, but we'll check our schedule. But we'll be doing this daily, if not nightly. And, of course, we will be on Sports Radio 810 WHB this Thursday night from 9:30 to 11. Again, make sure you start the show off your day off tomorrow with the Border Patrol at 6 o'clock a.m. on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Until next time, I'm Darren Smith with Sterling Holmes. We are out of here.